The real wrestling hotline, 1-900-903-9030. Fresh every day, every week. Hear Meltzer. That's right, Dave Meltzer. Plus Beverly, Terry Funk, Cornette, Dangerously Arezzi. The real wrestling hotline, 1-900-903-9030. Hear the wrestling horoscopes of the stars. Play tic-tac-toe hold. 10 new reports every week. The real wrestling hotline, 1-900-903-9030. Cost 99 cents per minute. Children under 18 must have parents' permission.
Call 212-477-5610 and be part of the Pro Wrestling Spotlight. Now back to John Arezzi.
Okay, back with the program and kicking off a big promotion, a brand new 900 number. You heard the spot right here on the program. That is exciting news that we're breaking tonight on this show. It's the first time that a group has been assembled of this magnitude for a 900 number. We're going to bring on Mr. Jim Herd right now. Mr. Herd, are you with us?
Hi, John, and hello, wrestling fans. How are you? After a year of silence,
here you are.
I'm here. How are you, John? It's nice to talk to you again.
Yes, I haven't actually had you on a radio program, I believe, since '89.
It's been quite a while, yes.
And you had left WCW, and you've been involved, I guess, in several other projects. Of course, your background was vast in the television field, I believe, also.
Yeah, we've been busy, and I can't say with any truism that I haven't missed the wrestling group, because I have. But on the other hand, I haven't missed WCW. There's very few people that can say they've had 3 guys in my job in the last year and a half. So, I think it all speaks for itself. The real thing I'm proud of is we put together probably on this new wrestling hotline a group of guys who probably have more background and knowledge about wrestling than most of the people that are in the ring. And not only that, they're not inhibited by politically correct management who says you can only talk about this or that. This wrestling hotline is going to touch every facet of the game and every promotion group in the United States, and tell it with certainly not only truth but the excitement of behind the scenes. We're going to go from the boardroom to the locker room.
Well, that's the way it is. And when I was asked to participate in the project, I tell you, I had a 900 number, a premium line number overseas, which does very well, and also a 900 number here in the States. But to get involved in a situation where I'm going to read the lineup here, Mr. Herd, the folks that you assembled and Wayne Coulter assembled for this is just phenomenal. First of all, Lance Russell is involved. Now, he was running the WCW's 900 number.
That's right. Lance has decided to, for a variety of reasons, come over to us because our showcase is going to be very exciting for 2 reasons. One, we've got the nuts and bolts of the wrestling correspondents of the world involved. You, Meltzer, Beverly, Paul E., Terry Funk. I mean, the list is sensational. Not only that, they're not inhibited by management saying, well, you can't talk about this or that. We're going to talk about everything. And it's exciting to me because one of the things that happened at WCW, I had Beverly on, and I got a lot of heat from the wrestling community because they said, hey, this guy's going to talk about things we don't want to talk about. And I stayed with the course, and now Beverly's with us. You, Meltzer, Beverly are the backbone of the wrestling fans' ability to tune in to behind the scenes, and that's what we're going to do.
Right, and here's the lineup for the fans out there. And of course, this is also a very affordable 900 number. It's only 99 cents a minute. On Sundays, you have yours truly with a report. Also, option number 2, you have WWF highlights with Georgia and Macropolis from the Wrestling Chatterbox. On Mondays, there's Dave Meltzer, the Wrestling Observer newsletter. Also, Scott Hudson, who does WCW highlights. Tuesdays is the day for Steve Beverly. And also, you have Smoky Mountain Wrestling highlights highlights with Dutch Mantell Tuesday and Wednesday. Dave returns Wednesday for another segment. Thursdays, you have Jim Cornette and also John Clark of the Wrestling Flyer newsletter with some great inside interviews. Fridays, you got Dave Meltzer again with Terry Funk. And Saturdays, Steve Beverly and Paul E. Dangerously. Then there are other options. You have question and answers. And I think another thing that's going to be real exciting about this is during the big pay-per-views and clashes, there is an open forum like a wrestling roundtable where we all talk live to the fans, I believe. Can you explain that wrestling roundtable to us a little bit?
Well, at some point, and it's probably, I would imagine 3 months away, the fan will be able to cut in and ask questions about the show that just immediately finished.
That's
and
exciting.
We will have the experts there to say, here, thumbs up, thumbs down. We liked it. We didn't like it. Here's the weak points. Here's the strong points. And dissect it on the air live after those bouts. And I think that's going to be an exciting thing. We had those roundtables at WCW for a while on Monday evenings.
Yes.
And the fans really enjoyed participating in those.
Well, it's certainly an exciting project for me to get involved with, and I'm happy to be involved with it.
Hey, John, we're so happy that you sacrificed a portion of your time, because I know how busy you are, to do this with us. And we think the fans are going to find it one of the most exciting hotlines that you've ever seen. We've got information coming from everywhere, and we're going to dissect it and put it out to people in a form that they can entertain, that they'll love.
And you kicked it off today. Was the first day?
Today was the first day. Steve Beverly's report was sensational on 903-9030. And, of course, once again, it's 99 cents per minute, and you have to be 18 or older, or you have to have your parents' permission.
Yes. And I tell you, Mr. Hurt, it's been a long time that we've spoken, at least on the airwaves. And I tell you one thing, you had a lot of critics in your reign as the head honcho there at WCW, myself included.
Sure.
But I tell you one thing, looking back at your reign, it seems like the good old days. It really does.
Let's look at it this way. In fact, I refer to the management there as philo dough management. It's layer after layer after layer, and it's very, very difficult to pinpoint responsibilities and all. I'm going to have a series of interviews with you and John Clark on the hotline, and we'll get into some of the things that I believe have been done badly. God knows that my critics pointed out a lot of things that I was a little bit off base on, but I know one thing: the ratings were higher, the pay-per-views were more successful, and the overall picture when I was there was much greater.
Well, the talent base was stronger also.
The talent base was compared to, the lineup, of course, is in a revolving wheel now, and I don't find that not exciting. I think one of the things in the future, although it'll never happen, is that at some point a pay-per-view between all the factions, rather than a flab fest like they just had, would be a sensational draw. I don't say that in disrespect to the Johnny Valentines. Lou Thez is a very dear friend of mine, and so's Muchnick and all, but when you've got Blackjack and Wahoo wrestling, don't talk to me about exposing the business. I mean, this is serious stuff now, and I think whoever recommended the show to Bill Shaw was wrong, and I think the group that okayed it is wrong, and that's the way things go, and I will go into that further on the hotline when you and John Clark interview me in the future.
Okay. Let me ask you one question though. When you were at when you were the head honcho there, okay? Mm-hmm. What was the most difficult thing that you had to put up with or deal with? What was the most difficult thing running that company? Oh,
I think the worst part of it was that when I went there, I was promised a supporting cast of CNN and TV. I mean, not only TBS but TNT, and a four-pronged approach to making it successful, which never really happened. And although Ted Turner, who is a great friend and a great fan of wrestling, when I went to him and said, "Look, the support that I'm getting is less than, number one, I was was promised, and number two, CNN's interviewing Hulk Hogan rather than my stars. And he said, hey, you have to earn that. And although I respected his judgment on that, I still felt that if all of the powerful components of Turner Broadcasting were lined up behind WCW, that we would have been much more successful than we were, and that's much more successful than they are now.
And let me ask you this. There's been a lot of rumors over the last several weeks about the situation with possibly Time Warner buying Turner Entertainment and maybe the wrestling company going away if that happens. What is your prognosis?
My prognosis is Ted Turner is not going to sell to any of those guys. He wants to own it all himself, and I think he will at some point if all the money crunchers can get together and look at it from a position that he's not going to sell TNT to anyone. I mean, that all those movies will only be like Picasso's. They'll be more valuable in the future. They're not making any more. They're not likely to make any more. And TNT's a brilliant idea from a visionary who I think he's a true visionary. I don't think there's any possibility of him selling it out.
Well, there's always everyone that we talk to, the fans, always say, well, why don't he take a more hands-on approach with that? Do you think he'll ever pull the plug on the wrestling company?
No, I don't think he will. I think there's changes in the offing. I think it'd be crazy to stay the status quo, but I don't think he'll pull it. I think number one, it did him in good stead over the years. He likes wrestling fans. And he likes wrestling as a ratings success on TBS. Let's face it, not particularly now, but when we were there, we had higher ratings than any other program on TBS, and I think that's fully possible. I mean, people talk to me about wrestling being a down era, or a down time. Wrestling television never takes dips. Maybe in the arenas, people kind of get disenchanted and don't go as much, and economics have something to do with that, but it doesn't have to do with television. Television ratings have never took dips based on arena attendance. It's foolish to look at it that way.
Mm-hmm.
You give them what they want to see on television, and they will tune it in.
And it's been a difficult time for the business right now. The arena shows are way down. Mr. Hurd, the phones are here lighting up like crazy. Can you take like a few minutes of calling with us?
I'll be happy to try to answer any fans' question.
Okay, why don't we go to line one, the first caller for tonight, James from Lindenhurst. James, you're first.
Hi, Mr. Hurd?
Yes.
Yeah, I read a wrestling newsletter out here on Long Island, and the one thing that I've always noticed, and I've always said, is that I think the main problem with WCW is whenever there's a problem within the federation, they always blame the guy in charge. They never go deep into it. I mean, you were in charge, they blame Jim Hurd. They blame Kip Fry, they blame Virgil Runnels, Bill Watts. They never look deep down, blame the workers they have. They never blame the particulars regarding the house shows. Do you feel that maybe if they started to crack down on the wrestlers and the lower members of the booking committee, that the sport and the company can run a little bit smoother?
Oh, there's no doubt about it. Number one, I had my problems with wrestlers. I mean, Ric Flair is probably the single reason in the Southeast and that region that wrestling is even still surviving. He's so great and he's so good. But we had our problems. I mean, and I'll go into a bunch of that later on interviews on our 900 line. I'm going to give you all the meat in Lindenhurst tonight. But the one thing that I believe is that wrestlers now are making more money than they ever made, and I have a problem with some of them who appreciate it less. I mean, one of the agendas that has to be addressed is the no-shows and the tardiness and all the things that aggravate the fans. I was listening to John's program earlier with Paul, and one of the things that John had addressed with Jake at the autograph party was that it was a it was like a community thing, and there was autographs given and small talk and all that. And one of the things that I was unable to accomplish at WCW is to get these people to be courteous to the fans and interact with them and give them autographs and all the things that build your business. And it's one of the things that has to be addressed. I don't know that the wrestling side is ever going to address it because, the Dusty Rhodeses and the Ole Andersons and those guys don't demand that kind of discipline, and therefore they don't get it.
Yeah, and of course, in a situation there's so much politics and there's so much egos involved, especially on the booking committees. It never seemed to me, and correct me if I'm wrong, that there was a team effort. Everyone just seemed to have their own agenda, and this is with all the regimes, as far as the people who are underneath booking, and it wasn't like they were putting out the full effort for the team, for the company.
The biggest success that, and I will go into some of the negotiations later on with some of your interviews, John, but the biggest successes we had were when we had Jimmy Cornette, Flair, myself, Kevin Sullivan, Jim Ross, who the hell else was on that booking committee? And believe me, we had knockdown, drag-out fights. And believe me, if I had not have been there to create a barrier between each one of those individuals pushing their own agenda, the reason we had success was not only because of the talent we had on that committee, which was great, but I was there, and believe me, I didn't become very popular by saying, wait a minute, we're not going to do that. You're only pushing your own agenda. Let's push the agenda that is good for everyone. And that's still a problem.
Yeah, it certainly is.
I mean, the nepotism with Watts and his son and with Dusty and his son, and it wouldn't surprise me if Ole's son will start soon.
Yeah, I heard rumors that he's going
and
to.
I'm not taking away from the athleticism of those guys. Dustin Rhodes is a hell of an athlete.
Yes.
And a hell of a nice guy, too, by the way.
Yes, he is.
But, the fan is suspect from the get-go on those deals, and it's very hard. You should take your time with them and let it mold its own course.
Okay, let's go to Belmar, New Jersey, and Billy. Billy, you're next.
Hi, John. I just have one question.
Speak up, Billy.
How much do wrestlers make per match?
Oh, that's varied. Some guys are on salary. Some guys get a percentage of the gate. It varies. In the WWF, most of the guys working there are on a percentage of the gate basis, percentage of merchandise, etc. Independent shows, they're on nightly guarantees, and it varies from the top of the card on to the bottom. You can make anywhere from down in the USWA. Sometimes I hear payoffs of like $25 on up to some independent shows up here in New York where guys are getting $1,000 a match.
No, give Jerry Jarrett a break, John. I mean, you can make. Listen, Billy, you can make from $60 a night to $2 million a year. Okay.
There you go. That's it. That's a variation. We're gonna go back to Jersey and speak to Mike from Garfield. Mike, are you there?
Hi, John. Mr. Hurd.
Yes.
Do you find WCW to be better when you ran it or as it is now with the house?
Hell no, I think it was better when I ran it. Are you kidding me, Mike? The ratings were higher, the houses were higher, and the pay-per-views were making a hell of a lot more money. But those people have to work out their own problems down there. I think they're trying to reach back into a time that doesn't exist anymore. I mean, Ole he'll probably star in Jurassic Park. But the thing is that you have to, and believe me, we had sessions with fans all over the country, Chicago and in New York and all, saying, what do you like? What do you want to see? And all of that research that was gathered at a hell of a lot of expense has never, ever been studied thoroughly and reacted on.
Yeah, I tell you, the year of 1989, I consider it, that was like a golden year for WCW,
yeah.
NWA. It really was.
Yeah.
Let's go to Carmel, New York, and speak to Joe. Joe, you're next.
Hi, how you guys doing tonight?
Good.
Mr. Hurd, I'd just like to say that WCW was a more successful organization while you
Well, thank you.
were running it, and it was obvious. I mean, by tuning into the shows, you could tell just by watching it.
And my question is, how do you feel about WCW's show at the Paramount back on April 14th?
Would you repeat that, John?
Yeah, he wanted to know how you felt about the Paramount show that WCW ran here in New York on April 14th, which was a disaster. I don't know if you heard
well,
too much
I
about
only
it.
have bits and pieces of, really what happened, so I can't really talk intelligently about it. I have an age-old axiom that says don't go do it if you can't do it. And I think to go into the largest market in the United States without being damn sure you're loaded for bear and doing the right thing, I think was a mistake.
Well, one thing I took it a little personally as far as that Paramount show. Here I am, I'm broadcasting to 8 states in the Northeast, and they didn't want to do anything with us, a ticket giveaway, any guests, nothing. And I'm here right, I'm a mile from Madison Square Garden,
John, there's been a haughty approach toward, and I can't say that I am not guilty to some extent, but I tried, and as you well know, to interact with most of the people that were involved in wrestling on any level and in any way while I was there. But there's a haughty approach to it by the so-called past stars that say, oh, we don't need them, what the hell do they know, and that's unfortunate.
Yeah, it certainly is, especially because the people who listen to this type of show and the people that are going to be calling the 900
They're
number...
the people that buy the tickets.
They're the people that buy the tickets.
That's
exactly.
right.
We'll take just a couple more calls for you, and I know we promised you just a half hour, and we want to live up to that agreement with you. We're going to take about 3 more calls for you. We'll go to Rob from Staten Island. Rob, you're next.
How you doing, John?
Good.
Listen, like the last caller said, this WCW had much more class when you were at the heads than now. I just want to ask you one thing. Do you think that the pay-per-view is something of the past? Because it seems like it's getting old. When we first had pay-per-view, it seemed like it was something better. The shows are much better. Now you have these shows that are like half concocted almost.
Not as exciting as previous pay-per-views. Do you agree with that, Mr. Hurd?
No, well, I don't. I think they're losing the key to what makes a pay-per-view worth buying, and that is as an intriguing build-up to a situation that everyone has to be solved, look toward, and that particular show is one that needs a 6-month build-up, if you will, maybe. I know that Vince has 5 shows and they have 4, but they're strictly trying to shove them, and I don't know that you can create them that big. We tried to create themes for them that would compel people to say, "Hey, I think I'll spend my money for that." But I agree with the caller. I don't think they're passé. I think that the planning on them needs to be to be looked at again. And let's face it, the only 2 things that ever worked on pay-per-views, boxing and wrestling.
Yeah, that's true. Let's go to 2 more callers for Mr. Hurd. James from Queens, you're next.
Hi. I have a question for you, John.
Go ahead.
I know with Slamboree, British Bulldog didn't win the title, but I'd like to know if you think that there's any other titles that he might win.
British Bulldog?
Yeah.
Well, I guess the U.S. title could be a possibility if they put him in a program with Rick Rude. But I don't think he's going to be winning the WCW title or the NWA title from either Van Vader or Barry Windham.
Okay.
Okay?
Thanks.
Okay. Let's take our last call there. I thought he would be for Mr. Hurd, but we'll go to Tracy from Weehawken, New Jersey.
Hi, John.
Hi, Tracy.
I have a question for you.
Okay.
Okay, I am like a real major fan of The Undertaker.
Yes.
And I was wondering if you know his real name.
Mark Calloway.
Mark Calloway?
Yes. Mr. Hurd, he was with...
Yeah, he was with the WCW.
Yeah, when you was under your regime, was he there? Under
yeah,
Mark?
sure he was.
Yeah.
We couldn't figure out what to do with him, and he was legitimately 6'9", and the guys, just to give you a little background, the guy said, well, I didn't have any facial expression, so we weren't smart enough to do anything with it, so Titan Sports, well, if he doesn't have any facial expression, let's make him the Undertaker.
There you go. There's the story, Tracy, okay?
Listen, John, I've got to run.
Okay.
I appreciate the time on the air. I hope the fans will tune into the to the real wrestling hotline, which is 1-900-903-9030. And believe me, we've put together, along with your talent and Meltzer and Beverly, this 900 line is a benefit when you call it, and I appreciate the time.
Well, thank you, Jim, and good luck to you, and we'll be talking to you soon.
You sure will.
Thank you very much. Okay, Mr. Jim Hurd. And, you know, I forgot to ask him. I had it written down. I wanted to ask him. Are you there still?
Yeah.
I wanted to ask you one question, okay? Out of all the time you were at WCW, NWA, was it actually your idea to do the ding-dongs?
That's right. It was, and of course...
A classic tag team now. That's like a historic classic tag team. You got to realize that,
but
right?
let me explain one thing.
Okay.
And the ding-dongs were never done exactly as they were to be done.
Uh-huh.
The original idea of the ding-dongs was to have a huge bell that was rested on one of the ring corners. And the bell not only was for them to go over, and they had a plate under their mask on their forehead to go hit their head on the bell. But it was also something that their opponents could use their head for, too. But the bell was supposed to be a big chime. I mean, it didn't just, and so we ended up with little bitty bells, and it kind of got sabotaged along the way. But you're right, it's being remembered. I'll be labeled with that forever.
That's right. Well, listen, you have a good weekend.
Thanks, John.
Take care.
Good talking to you.
Okay, bye-bye. Okay, Mr. Jim Hurd, how to get that ding-dong question in one of the classic tag teams of wrestling, even though they only lasted a couple shows.